In this video, I'm going to cover some of the ships that I would like to see Gaijin add to War Thunder. I'm going to be focusing on ships that can be added now or in the near future, along with just covering destroyers and up, as larger ships are what interest me the most. I'm also not going to go above heavy cruisers either, but I might cover some bigger ships in the future. I've also got a secret ship at the end of the list, something that I don't think anyone's expecting, so be sure to stay tuned for that. First comes America. The first ship I'd like to see for them is a Cleveland-class light cruiser, which is a class that came after the USS Brooklyn. The main thing this ship has over the Brooklyn is more anti-air weaponry, extra torpedo protection, and extra crew. However, it loses one of the 5 turrets, taking it down to 12 6-inch guns. While in real life this was made up for with a better fire control system, this isn't modeled into War Thunder, so I'd expect it to play like a Brooklyn with less firepower and more survivability in anti-air. It wouldn't be a direct upgrade so much as a side grade, but it would make a nice addition to the US tech tree after the USS Brooklyn. Next is the USS Wichita, a one-of-a-kind ship. Originally it was going to be a New Orleans class heavy cruiser, but somebody had a bit too much to drink and decided to put the guns on a Brooklyn hull instead. Rounded off with a higher anti-air loadout, the Wichita would be a pretty nice ship for America to get, combining both the firepower of the Portland and the superior armor protection of the Brooklyn. Though, considering the presence of the Graf Spee, I think America might need to go a bit further to get something that'll truly be on par. The Baltimore class is the two ideas of the Wichita meshed fully together, a superior hull similar to that of the Brooklyn with heavy cruiser level firepower. They pretty much look like a scaled up Cleveland class. Weighing in at around 17,000 tons at full load, with the same armament as the prior USS Wichita, the Baltimore would easily be the best or second best ship in the current meta. I just love the look of these too. They're easily my favorite cruiser class from a visual standpoint. Now, on to another country. America may have made the most ship types, but it's not like they're the only ones who should get something. One ship I've wanted for some time is Germany's Type 1936A Narvik. These are similar to the current Type 1936A Mob, but with different weapon loadouts. Some had 4 single mount 6-inch guns, while others had a single twin 6-inch mount and 2 single 6-inch mounts. Either way, whichever variant we get in War Thunder would have 4 6-inch cannons as opposed to the mob's 5 6-inch cannons. I think one of these ships could fit at 4.3, being a potential side grade to the standard Type 1936 or 1936B. It'd certainly be interesting to have one of these in Enduring Confrontation due to the enhanced range. This next one might be a little controversial, but considering Russia's lack of viable cruisers, I think it's at least worth bringing up. The Lutzow, or Petropavlovsk, or Talon, was a partially completed Admiral Hipper class sold to Russia by Germany. It was never finished, but it did provide artillery support in the defense of Leningrad in 1941, and was used to push in the Soviet counteroffensive of 1944. I think Gaijin could take the almost completed version, make some realistic changes to finish the ship, and give it to Russia as a heavy cruiser. Russia lacks a real transition ship from light cruisers to battle cruisers, meaning this might be their only viable tier 5 ship unless Gaijin decides to move the Sverdlov or Kirov in its place. I'm not sure if I'd want this ship in War Thunder as it heavily depends on Gaijin's implementation, but I think if it was done right, it could be nice to have. The next ship is a much more obvious addition, but it still fits. The Kotlin-class destroyer would be great to have after the Tashkent or PR-7U, working as a tech tree version of the new Strashimi. With the same armament and similar vehicle attributes, it wouldn't be much of a stretch to add it to the game. I don't see much reason for us not to have this soon, other than Gaijin maybe wanting to wait a patch as not to hurt the sales of the new Strashimi. For the British, I was looking over their tech tree and noticed a distinct lack of something, a 4.7 destroyer. It was surprisingly easy to find a perfect ship for this role, a tribal class destroyer with 4 turrets that have 2 4.7-inch cannons each. This was actually the original design for the class, so I'm surprised we don't have it in game already. This version would have significantly less anti-air and trade for an increase to anti-ship weaponry, and it would be a relatively simple modification of the current tribal models. I wouldn't expect this ship to dethrone the Summers as the peak firepower destroyer, but it would certainly be nice to have in game. Lastly, for the countries already in game comes the Japanese. First, I think they should get the Tone class heavy cruiser. Coming after the Mogami, this ship has a frontal gun layout similar to that of the Brooklyn, but with all 4 turrets at the front of the ship. While it wouldn't be better than the current Mogami class due to having less firepower, it would certainly be better than the Furutaka and debatably better than the Suzuya and Mikuma, making it a moderately competitive ship. Next, they should also receive a ship of the Takao class, specifically a late war refit. The Takao and Atago wound up with 10 8-inch guns, 8 5-inch guns, and an impressive 60 25mm guns. Japan's tree is lacking in anti-air firepower at the moment, so giving them the Takao could provide a ship with some proper anti-airplane defense. Last for Japan is a very interesting ship that I think could turn them from having the weakest destroyers to still having the weakest destroyers, but with a very cool one mixed in. The Shimakaze class was an experimental destroyer that's roughly similar to a Yugomo, but with 15 torpedoes and a massive speed boost. The ship can reach a speed of 41 knots, making it an incredibly mobile vessel. The 1944 refit also gets 16 25mm cannons, giving it a better anti-air loadout than most of the other Japanese ships. I think it would be a fine addition at 4.7 or maybe 4.3, depending on how well it functions in-game. For countries that are yet to have navies in the game, there are still a few ships worth mentioning. We already know the Italian Trento class is coming. This was confirmed in the 7th anniversary interview with Kirill Udinitsev, even providing us an early picture of the ship. I'd guess the Italian Navy is coming soon, maybe as soon as 1.99. Personally, I would like to see the Italian Zara-class heavy cruiser, a ship that's infamous for breaking the naval weight limit so badly that the inspectors could tell it was violating the rules from across the dock. The ship seems like it would perform similarly to the German Admiral Hipper class and looks quite pleasing visually. I'd be surprised if this isn't the peak ship of the Italian cruiser line, and I think it should be fun and interesting to play. Next is the French Colbert-class cruiser, a Cold War design favoring number of guns over caliber. This thing has American levels of DACA, with 8 twin 127mm turrets. That's the same number of guns as the USS Atlanta. It also has 10 twin 57mm cannons. This ship would be like an Atlanta on steroids, being the ultimate in air control. It's a pretty unique design, and hopefully we can get it when the French Navy is added to the game. Lastly is the secret ship that I don't think anyone was expecting.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
The Canarias is a Spanish heavy cruiser class, featuring a very familiar loadout of 8 8-inch guns split into 4 turrets. It's actually a modification of the County class the British have in-game already. It's nothing particularly special, but it would be an interesting ship to have added. Spain doesn't have much representation in War Thunder despite the Spanish Civil War happening directly before World War II, and adding one of their cruisers could change that. One of them could potentially go to Italy as a premium or event ship, as both were used by nationalist Spain against the Republican Spanish Navy. There's my list of destroyers and cruisers I'd like to see added to the game. Are there any specific ones I missed that would make fine additions, or were there any I listed that aren't fitting to the game at the moment? Be sure to let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what kind of ships people want added to the game. Don't forget to like if you did and subscribe for more, or join my Discord to get updates about all my videos that I've got coming out in the future.